I have a question for you. Are you ready to unlock the true secret to your happiness by reconnecting to the most authentic part of yourself? If you answered yes, you're in the right place. Hi, beautiful soul. Welcome to the magical realm of Mystic Hearts. I'm Chloe Rose, your host for today, and I welcome you to an inner child mini masterclass today. We're going to be talking all about inner child healing, unpacking what inner child healing means, why it is so big and so important for us to understand this wound, but also reconnect with it and shine a light of awareness on these parts of ourselves, and also begin to talk about how we can take those steps towards healing and liberating our inner child to bring us back to this state of being our most fantastical, joyful, expressive versions of ourselves. So I'm super excited to share this with you today. I've been having quite a few people recently ask me for more info on inner child healing, because I've talked about shadow work and I continue to talk about shadow work a lot, and I feel my personal experience, inner child healing is the ultimate shadow work. It's the ultimate shadow work. So I'll go into that in a moment. And for those of you who are interested in this, once you have watched this video, by the way, please grab a pen and paper, glass of water, cup of tea, coffee, whatever will make you feel comfortable for this mini masterclass to join with me. And if this leaves you feeling like, yes, I want more, then I'm so excited to share with you that on the 4th of May, I'm hosting a 2-hour live Zoom masterclass called Live Your Fantastical Life. It's going to go deeper into childhood healing. We're actually going to go on a deep guided quantum healing meditation journey where we can safely visit one of these core wounds that we're going to uncover today and shine that light of awareness on it, and then work on integrating that and how we can reconnect with our inner child so that our inner child can start leading the way in so much more of a joyful, playful, magical, fantastical way. So that's on the 4th of May, Live Your Fantastical Life. It's at 7:30 p.m. UK time, which I believe is 2:30 p.m. Eastern, which will make it 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. If you buy a ticket for the masterclass and you can't make the live, you'll not only get a copy of the recording, you'll also get a copy of the guided meditation, a journal playbook, and so much more. So it's really worth signing up to it, even if you can't make the live. Super exciting. And also, if you watch this mini masterclass today and you're like, you know what, I'm ready to just dive in, I also offer this as a one-to-one service of Live Your Fantastical Life, which is a 90-minute live one-to-one session, which weaves a lot of different tools in it, like coaching, embodiment work, quantum energy healing, and really accessing one or two core childhood wounds that are blocking you from being able to come into your heart and express your inner child freely. And really live. You know, a lot of people are like, I don't know what my mission is. I don't know what my passions are. I don't know what I'm meant to be doing in my life. Your inner child knows the way. So by connecting back into your inner child and setting that innocent and authentic part of you free, it can really help to remove some of those doubts and blocks and fears that get in the way of us being fantastical. So yeah, thank you for being here with me today. I have done lots of research for this topic today, because when it comes to things like fears and woundings, it can be quite a tricky topic to talk about. So this is one of my more educational coffee shop chats. So it's in different parts, and for those of you that are new here, welcome. I like to do this in quite a casual style, but where I'm sharing information with you, but then I will simultaneously be almost like interviewing myself. So when I talk about the main 9 wounds, I'll be sharing some of my own personal reflections on those, not as a trauma dump, but just a way of hopefully helping to shed some light for you on perhaps some of your own woundings. Because examples are always helpful, right? We can all look up what a wound is, but sometimes hearing someone else share their own personal experiences, I found, can really help me to open up. So this is my gift to you today as well. I'm not going to be talking about anything that is really traumatic today, so I don't feel that there are any trigger warnings. But as always, I would say that if you really want to get the most out of this mini masterclass today, I would, you can watch this anytime, you can save it, but I would watch it fully when you're feeling present, when you're feeling quite emotionally calm, when you're feeling good mentally. If you're feeling stressed out or overburdened, perhaps this isn't the right time to do this, but you know best. So yeah, we will dive straight in and see where this goes. But I'm going to be offering you in this masterclass some ways that you can start your own inner child healing. So I hope you enjoy it as much as I do, sharing it and preparing it. So, first of all, inner child healing. What is it? What is it? As I said, I personally think it's the most powerful shadow work. So it's really just reflecting honestly on our childhood. Reflecting honestly on our childhood. And you might be watching this and thinking, I had a wonderful childhood. I have nothing but happy memories, and that's great. But I can promise you that it doesn't have to be those from a traumatic upbringing or, a troubling childhood that have these wounds. We all do, because it's the really small, subtle, like interpersonal relationships and little words and mannerisms and digs. They're the ones that can actually cause some of the deep, deep wounds. So it's reflecting on our childhood to understand and eventually repair our own individual behaviour as adults. And why do we want to do this? To gain clarity, self-confidence and self-awareness. Who doesn't want that, right? So that's really what it is, reflecting on childhood. And I want to just talk about this a bit more because, I talk about shadow work a lot and facing fears and doing that difficult work, but it doesn't all have to be dark and difficult and emotional. Sometimes if we really face a wound head on that we maybe perhaps were telling ourselves wasn't that big, sometimes that can be very emotionally charged. We can suddenly feel grief or overwhelming sensations of sadness that just wants to be felt and released. But it doesn't always have to be like that. Oftentimes, powerful inner child healing is acknowledging it, becoming aware of it, and then sharing it. And because it's with our own inner child, it's this inner dialogue, an inner conversation. So it's really beautiful introspective work. And our inner child just wants loving attention and kindness. So that's really what this is. It's a beautiful, compassionate, kind, loving, powerful journey of shadow work, and it may uncover other woundings that need to be addressed, but I think it's beautiful. And I can't remember who I was saying this to recently, but some of the most amazing people who I've met in my life, who I would consider to be very knowledgeable and wise on their own spiritual and personal development journey, their inner child is so strong. They're silly, they're joyful, they're kind, they're forgiving, they're curious, non-judgmental. And these are wise people. So I find that inner child healing is super important. And, you know, it's how we've been programmed is perhaps counterintuitive to that, right? Because it's like, oh, don't be so immature, don't be like a child. Actually, we do want to be like a child. So these are some of my notes that I've written, by the way. It's just helping me, my crazy brain, and I've just come back from holiday as well, so I'm just like supercharged with energy. Childhood wounds are also known as soul wounds and core wounds, right? So just take that in for a moment. Soul wounds and core wounds. So they are very, very, very central to how we think, feel, and act in our adult life. They are deep emotional imprints that shape our behaviour, relationships, and perception. So basically everything, our own behaviour, our relationships, and our perception. So they affect everything. And these wounds, the childhood wounds, the soul wounds, the core wounds, are not just mental. They're not just in the mind. They are actually deeply imprinted into our subconscious, which is directly connected to our nervous system. So therefore it has a huge effect on how we function day to day. And it actually affects our body's stress response systems, which actually has the power, possibly has the power over long term to lead to chronic health issues, anxiety, and relationship issues. So this is serious stuff. We want to face these wounds, childhood, core, soul. When we don't address emotional woundings, emotions are energy in motion. So when that energy in motion is energy not in motion, it becomes dense and then eventually turns into matter, which spreads around the body. So it's serious stuff. This is like holistic health 101, doing this deep emotional wounding healing. So, one of my main offerings that I do, the actual most popular one-to-one service I have at the moment, is the Awaken the Witch Within, one-to-one witch activation. Sorry, Awaken the Witch Within was the last masterclass I did. One-to-one witch activation. So that's a very popular one, especially for those who really want to start coming online with their psychic abilities, magical abilities, really stepping into that version of themselves, or just be comfortable identifying as a witch, a mage, a wizard, sorceress, whatever you choose. So I wanted to just shed some light on what is the difference between witch wound and inner child wound. Because all of these things do cross over. Of course they do. There's always going to be complex layers and parallels. But I feel that they are very different. Both very important, but very different. Because you can... So let's talk about the witch wound. The witch wound is a past, parallel, present, whatever you want to call, parallel lifetime healing of where our soul has experienced extreme persecution, betrayal, or imprisonment, or something like that, because of our magical powers or ability, or free authentic expression, or some kind of healing work, something along those lines. So usually stops us from really expressing ourselves freely, but also being our true selves. It causes a lot of fear and doubt in the throat with expression, but it also can close down our inner sight, our wisdom, psychic senses, things like that. So that's the witch wound. And then the childhood wound is similar, because the childhood wound also stops us from being able to authentically express ourselves, but the childhood wound is more focused on relationships and more emotional human experience. So the witch wound, if we say that's multidimensional, and then the childhood wound is a lot more human and emotional and personal. So if you think about that, we really want to merge the two together and have those two healings side by side, because then it's just beautiful and harmonious, merging our human emotional self with our multidimensional magical witchy self. Hopefully that sheds some light on the difference between those two, and how I can explain what happens when we only do one and not the other. So let's think of an individual who's done loads of witch woundings and feels totally comfortable and empowered to be their most magical self. Maybe they identify as a witch, a wizard, a healer, a shaman, whatever it may be. They are very much in touch with their own psychic senses, and they know which are their superpowers, and they're going with that. So they're there, okay? They've released those blocks in place. However, they haven't done the inner child healing. So what that can cause is sometimes, not always, a sort of an ego complex or a god complex, perhaps looking down upon others, being judgmental of others, and not very empathetic, maybe a bit controlling over people. So that's that. And then let's flip that the other way around. An individual who's done lots of inner child healing. So they feel comfortable in themselves, they feel joyful and happy, lots of compassion and love towards others. What might happen though is if they haven't done the witch wound healing, they could be maybe a little one-sided when it comes to spirituality. They may be closed off to the multidimensionality of reality and just very kind of earthbound, and I don't think there's such thing as too grounded, but very kind of earthly and dense, and sort of almost not wanting to explore the more multidimensional and magical realms. So it's really lovely to bring the two together. Very difficult stuff to explain without experiencing them. But I can tell you that I've had many witch wound healings that I've received, and inner child healing also I've received sessions from others, and I constantly do this work on myself. I go through phases and cycles because it can be quite a lot. But yes, I do actively choose to partake in both of these woundings. And if you think of yourself as a multi-dimensional being, then you'll recognize that this is ongoing work as we pull back the onion layers. And we just become lighter and brighter and more loving and self-aware and compassionate for ourselves and others. And just recognize that we are a badass, magical soul. Okay, so that's that. So I'm going to go on to talk about now. And these are things that I've gathered, and I'll reflect upon these with you. So I've put together 9 main wounds. Remember I said childhood wound, soul wound, and core wounds. I've put together 9 of these what I feel to be main wounds around inner child healing. So this is where you might want to get your pen and paper and start making some notes if you feel called to, or you can pause now and go and grab it. So, number 1, rejection. Feeling unwanted or not accepted for who you are. Ooh, big one. This often leads to a withdrawing mask, where the person tries to remain invisible to avoid further rejection. This is a huge one, And I want to add that I feel that this is not only like a parental wound, you know, that we get from our childhood. This is societal. You know, we're getting it from conditioning, from schools, perhaps cultural conditioning as well, is not being allowed to be ourselves, having to fit into what is comfortable for those around us. Huge wound, huge rejection wound. And I love what I said about wearing the mask, because when we have this rejection wound, feeling unwanted or not accepted for who we are, we start putting this mask over ourselves, which gets thicker and less authentic the older we get, because it makes us blend in to the crowd. But also what it does is it hides our inner child. So our inner child is feeling sad and heavy and rejected. So I'm going to just think about this for a moment upon reflection. So feeling unwanted or not accepted for who you are, this often leads to a withdraw a mask. I'm already thinking of a lot of examples for me. But what's interesting about this one for me, I can't, sometimes for me, inner child healing, I have to go deep into a journey to get the real juicy bits. This one for me, something that's really coming up that I'm going to share with you is actually in school days. I changed schools a few times, and I found that the influence of the crowd, you know, the crowd mentality, when I was at a very impressionable young age, and then also certain teachers and things like that, really caused me to dress differently, to speak differently. Like I remember I changed a school and I went from dressing like a goth baddie to suddenly just wearing like tracksuits and stuff, because I was just so afraid to be myself, because I didn't want to get bullied, I didn't want to get made fun of, so I dumbed myself down. And what's interesting is I have noticed this pattern in myself throughout relationships. Isn't that so interesting? Yeah, so I'm going to go into that one more. All right, then we've got number 2. Abandonment wound, another biggie. Rooted in physical or emotional absence by caregivers. It creates a deep fear of being alone, often leading to codependency or wearing a dependent mask. Ooh, that's interesting. So it can be like hyper independent or hyper codependent from this wound. So this is a juicy one. This one's quite easy for me to talk about because I share freely about how much work I've done around this wounding. Just to share that as well, because I only feel free to share about some of my own wounds and traumas because I've already done a lot of inner work on them. Otherwise, I wouldn't be sharing it so freely and publicly. There are certain personal things that I will only share with myself or with like an individual who's very close to me, who I can trust. So just sharing that with you. You're not expected to come onto YouTube and share all of your biggest, darkest secrets and shadows. You can if you want, and all power to you, but you don't have to. So abandonment, this one for me. I've never met my dad. He left my mum when she was pregnant. And I've never met him. He rejected any attempt for me to contact him or for him to be in my life. So that's like the biggest abandonment wound ever, but I've done so much work on it, and I've recognized how it has affected every single romantic relationship I've ever had up until a year ago. And then I was like, this cycle is ending, and I did a lot of healing around that. But what it said here really hit deep for me. It creates a deep fear of being alone. Yeah, so my whole life, up until 35 years, I was just desperately clawing at love from the male gaze. Yeah, but I recognised that. So that was a huge inner child healing and wounding pattern that I recognised in myself, which has really set me free. And I've been happily single for a year now. Okay, let's go to number 3. Humiliation, stemming from being shamed, ridiculed, or criticised. Adults with this wound often adopt a masochist mask. I like that. Feeling they must serve others' needs while ignoring their own. Oof. Yeah. So this wounding, so sad, this wounding, we like start desperately serving others to try and please them or appease their wishes. Yeah, something that's coming up for me is quite early, like I was quite young. I started going through my hormonal changes and becoming a woman. And I got really intense clinical acne at like the age 11 and 12. So it was a lot. That was really hard for me, because that was the time of my life when I was like, I should be blooming into this young and beautiful woman. And because I was on medication for it, my weight was going up and down. Yeah, and I had friends who had like older brothers, and I was like, oh, I want to like impress the older guys, and they'd be like, oh, what's wrong with your skin? Things like that really dug deep. Yeah, so I have found that how that affected me was constantly like always caring about how I looked and wanting to impress through my looks, because I got ridiculed so badly for how I looked when I was younger. So I really have to catch myself on that one. And just remember that beauty shines from within, and it honestly does. So yeah, and that's another one I'd like to look back deeper into my childhood as well, actually. All right, let's go to number 4. Betrayal. Ooh, this is a witch wound word as well, betrayal. Ooh, yeah. Caused by unkept promises or unreliability from trusted figures. Yeah. This typically results in a controller mask, where the individual feels they must manage everything to avoid being blindsided again. Yeah. Ooh, this is a juicy one. Yeah, this is a good one. And it's so funny. I'm like recognizing all of these wounds in myself. One that's really popped up to me is there was a time in my childhood where my private diaries were read by, I'm not going to say who, because I'm not going to shame anyone in my family, but by a person of authority in my family, and they read them and were so angry with what was written inside them. And I was like, you've just read my personal stuff, you've broke that boundary. So yeah, that was tough, and that definitely has caused me to like shut off a lot from figures of authority and just wanting to do everything myself and not really trusting that. Yeah, for sure. So I like that, where the individual feels they must manage everything to avoid being blindsided again. Yeah, for sure. And feeling like one can't rely on others for anything. So I've really had to teach myself to ask for help because of this, I feel. And you know, that's not the only wound. There'll be more from my childhood. But yeah, you stop wanting to ask others for help because you feel like you can't trust anyone, or you feel like someone will say yes, but they don't mean it, right? But it's all about finding that wound within ourselves and building relationships with people, but also, you know, expressing and communicating it clearly, you know, what we want from friendships, from relationships, and from our family members, so that those boundaries and expectations are set, so then no one can get betrayed or disappointed. Okay. Next one. Sorry, I was just lost in reading it then. We've got number 5, injustice. Ooh. Formed in cold or authoritarian environments where a child's individuality wasn't respected, it often leads to a rigid personality type and perfectionism. I would say personally that I didn't grow up in an environment like this. Definitely was not rigid or authoritarian. And I'm absolutely not a perfectionist whatsoever. So that's fine. And I don't say that I wouldn't say that I've got a rigid personality. So I guess that at this time I can't think of an example for that, but I probably, if I dug a bit deeper, I would say that I could probably find these from like school teachers or sort of people in my extended family. I can definitely think of some more figures that are like that. So if I digged deeper, I feel like I could find a wound for that for sure. But I'm just going to move on to the next one. Number 6 is shame. Shame, which is this can be the same as the witch wound as well. Shame also comes up in the sisterhood wound, which I've also done a talk on. The belief of the belief of I am fundamentally broken or bad. And this one is like so subtle, so subtle, because oftentimes we can have people in our lives, people who we love and care about, and they love and care about us. But if they keep telling us that something that we're doing is wrong, just because they don't align with it, it causes this wound of shame where we feel like that we are fundamentally wrong just because we don't fit into their standards of what is right and what is wrong. Okay? Yeah. And I do feel that, you know, and I'm only sharing quite surface level experiences of my own wounds with you. What I would say is, yeah, I mean, I've always identified as the black sheep of my family, my close family and my extended family. And there's often been sort of comments of like, oh, are you still doing that yoga thing or that thing, or, you know, and it's like sort of this looking down upon me because I'm quite alternative and doing my own thing, and feeling like I'm doing something wrong because I'm not fitting into the acceptable mold of society and family expectations. So yeah, that's definitely created some patterns of shame within me, which obviously I'm a lot more liberated from now, but growing up, yeah, and it caused a lot of confusion within me. Okay, let's go to number 7. Invisibility. feeling like your presence or feelings don't matter. Oh, yeah, this one's definitely hitting deep for me. Invisibility. Yeah. This one's an interesting one for me because I spent most of my life up until probably only a couple of years ago thinking that I had like this shy, reserved, introspective personality type. And then I was like, hang on a minute, that's a choice. That is a choice. Of course, we can be a little bit more withdrawn or introspective, introverted than others. But I thought that I was shy and I just have to accept that for the rest of my life. But what I've realised is it's all wounding. It's all wounding because there's a difference between choosing when we talk and when not to talk than being shy. Yeah, because it's a choice, and it's a powerfully empowering choice of knowing when to talk and when not to. But yeah, the invisibility for sure for me resonates because there's a lot of people in my life who have very loud voices and talk a lot. So I often felt like, I couldn't get a word in, or if I did, it would just be interrupted or talked over. So I just kind of learnt to just stop talking, basically. And that's not very healthy. And that causes, of course, kind of a restriction around free, authentic expression, which is really what the inner child is wanting to do, express authentically and freely. So that's been something that I've really been working with as well, is having these strong boundaries of being like, no, I'm the one talking now. Yeah, feeling like your presence or feelings don't matter. Yeah, and if you're crying, getting shut down. I've had that in relationships, crying and a partner just being like, shh, it's okay, shh. Which is not okay. It's not okay, You need someone that makes you feel safe to express and release. All right, number 8. We're almost there now. Number 8. Lack of safety. Lack of safety. So this could be, in a toxic environment. We all know what an unsafe home space feels like. That's really difficult for a child because we learn that the world is a dangerous place and that no one can be trusted, probably including ourselves. In this moment, without going into it deeply again, I can't say that I grew up in an unsafe or toxic environment. So for me, this one doesn't really resonate personally, on a personal level. But I'm sure upon deeper reflection, I can find some single situations or instances that caused me to not feel safe and caused me to not trust people. But it's something that I need to reflect upon and dig deeper into. I'm going to put a little star next to that, actually. Okay, number 9. This one's a bit lighter, but very, very, very prevalent in people, I think, these days, is responsibility or guilt. Feeling responsible for others' emotions and pain. So, got the responsibility one. First of all, I see that as like, where you have to grow up too quickly. So you might be in a family where you have to take care of other siblings or of a parent even. So you have that responsibility for that person from a young age. Flip that on the other side. The guilt would be where things are just constantly dumped upon you. So you feel responsible for others' emotions and pain. Oh, yeah, that one's not good. And what I feel this creates in people is chronic people pleasing. Also the humiliation wounding, you know, where we feel shamed and ridiculed, so we just want to put on this mask of being perfect and being digestible. But I think the responsibility and guilt is almost this overgiving. We overgive, just to try and make sure that we're not responsible for other people's pain, sadness, or whatever it may be. But it doesn't work that way, because unfortunately when we overgive and overplease, that gets abused very easily, and we're abusing ourselves essentially when we overgive to others. Can I think of any of my own examples of that? I think I would say just being an only child for a single parent, it creates a lot of kind of expectation around that. And that would be kind of the responsibility and the guilt. It's that, I'm the only child, I've got to do things a certain way. And there is, a bit of a codependency when you're in a small family as well. So that causes that, guilt and feeling responsible for each other. It definitely does cross those boundaries. So yeah, I can definitely relate to that one as well. And the word boundaries just came up, and that's an important one for that one. You have to set up these strong boundaries, so that you take care of yourself, but also setting boundaries really, I find, gains respect from whoever is on the other side of that boundary. Maybe not straight away, but in the long run, definitely. So those are the 9 main wounds. And I've got a few little notes that I wrote down about healing. So again, you can continue with me if you like, or you can come back to these. So I've got some self-led healing exercises, and then I've got some introspective questions to go even that bit deeper. And I've put together some introspective questions around the main 9 inner child healing, soul wound, core wounds. Okay, so really covering a lot of this. But as I said, for the inner child healing, if you want to come and join the May the 4th masterclass, that would be awesome, because you'll already have a head start with all of this. And then we're actually going to go into a guided journey where we find one of these core wounds within ourselves. And obviously when we do that, when we shine the awareness on it, we can shine love and compassion into it and set ourselves free from that pattern and the weight that it holds over us. Also, if you want to dive in with a one-to-one Live Your Fantastical Life session, we will go to 1 or 2 even of these core wounds within ourselves, well, within you. And then with the one-to-one session, we actually take it a step further. And we start creating your most fantastic reality. That's why it's called Live Your Fantastical Life. When we let the inner child lead the way without the conditionings and the woundings that we're holding on to. But here are some self-led healing exercises that you can do, and I highly recommend working with others. I have one, usually 2 mentors who I work with simultaneously, and then I'm always doing my own self-led introspective work at the same time. I think it's really important to have both. Have someone else holding you and supporting you, but also holding and supporting yourself. So, some self-led healing exercises that you can try to help connect with your inner child. So an inner child letter writing, and I love this. If you've been following me for a while, you know I love a letter. I love writing a letter. So this one is for all my fellow writers, for my fellow journalers. You can write a letter to your younger self at a specific age. So maybe, you know, once you've gone through these wounds, something, you know, the main one that comes up for you, think, okay, how old was I there? And then you can write a letter to that version of you and tell them what they needed to hear at the time. For example, you're safe now. I'm here for you. I love you. I'm going to take care of you. And you can also write a response from your inner child's perspective if you wish to understand their unmet needs. You don't have to do this as a letter. You can do this as a conversation where you just place your hands on your heart or hold yourself in an embrace and speak out loud, having a conversation with yourself. Okay. And next we've got self-nurturing exercise. So when you feel that voice coming in of like self-criticism or self-doubt, and I love this one makes me like really happy because it's just really fantastical. Imagine a character from a book, a movie, or from real life who embodies unconditional love and comfort for you. So for me, it would be like Gandalf the wizard as a very quick example, or like Totoro. And visualize them standing with you and speaking kindly to your wounded part. So that's like inviting in an imaginary friend or a spirit guide or a fantastical friend who's going to help you on this journey. So I love that one. I really love that one. You know, you could even get an image of them up on your computer or print an image and have it there and be like, okay, this is going to be my guide that I choose to help support me with my inner child healing. Then you're bringing in the fantastical elements as well. This one, kind of an obvious one, but probably one that we overlook is earthing and grounding, because Mother Earth is our spiritual mother, our divine mother. So doing some of this work, maybe where we are accessing these uncomfortable childhood memories, doing it outside with our feet on the earth, can really hold us with a lot more strength and unconditional love. So I do highly recommend that. You know, to manage these emotional flashbacks or overwhelming feelings, stand barefoot on the ground and focus entirely on the sensation of your feet touching the earth. You can even imagine roots anchoring you down. So it's like, oh, it's okay. I've got this support from the earth. I can get through this. What you can do is embodiment as well. So when you're working through the 9 main wounds, what you might want to do is, when you're noticing these, when you're working through them, notice parts of your body that suddenly tense up or feel painful. And then what you're going to do on the opposite side of that is like, okay, the left side of my heart feels really heavy and sore. Find a part of your body that feels the opposite to that. Okay, so which part of me feels light? Which part of me feels free? Which part of me feels safe? And just keep noticing the two to bring that sense of grounded and balanced energy from within you. That's a really empowering practice. It can be quite difficult to get into. But yeah, it really helps to build resilience without overwhelming your nervous system. So rather than only focusing on the wound, we're also focusing on the parts of ourselves that feel good. So I like that one. For anyone who likes touch and, you know, things like that and getting into the body, that can be a powerful one. And then, of course, one of my favourite things to do, play. This is like the ultimate inner child healing exercise, reclaiming playfulness, silliness, joy. So, and what's nice about this one is it doesn't mean that you have to access the uncomfortable, but you're giving your inner child a space to express itself freely. So dedicating time to activities you loved as a child but may have stopped. So it could be colouring, building with blocks, making daisy chains, or, you know, you'll see me doing nature crafting, dancing, singing, painting. And this helps your inner child feel safe to experience joy again. So it's all activities where you're not on a phone, you're not on a computer, you're not talking outwardly. It's a very like energy focused, expressive activity. Whatever brings you joy or curiosity or excitement. It's one of my favorites. Cool. So those are your self-healing techniques that I would recommend for inner child healing, and you can just start with one of them, and you know, one a week or one a month even. Make this a long old process. Okay, so we're going to take it a bit deeper now, and you can work through this with me now if you want. So you can listen to a question and then pause the video and work through it if you like. So if you are going to do this with me now, live, I really invite you to place a hand on your heart and close down your eyes and just listen to the question, pause and reflect. Okay, and these are working through one by one those 9 wounds that we went through. And to get the most out of these, try focusing on one wound at a time. Or you may have found that from the 9 main wounds, one really, really came up for you, and you might want to just listen to the first ones until you get to that wound and you say, yes, okay, this is the one I want to work with today. Trust your intuition, trust your inner child on this. Okay, so, grab a notebook, find a quiet spot. See which of these questions, also this is another way you can do with this, you can just listen to the questions with hand on heart and see if any of these trigger a physical tug or sensation in your body or an immediate emotional reaction. And that's usually where most of your growth is hiding and where your transformation is hiding. Okay, so there's kind of 3 different options for you there if you choose to work through this. You'll also, if you join the masterclass on the 4th of May, you'll get a much more detailed version of these introspective questions, and you're going to get like a whole PDF document that you can work through over like 6 to 12 months. So this is just like a taster session for the masterclass. All right, so we've got wound number 1, rejection. When I walk into a room full of strangers, do I assume people won't like me before I've even spoken? What mask do I put on to ensure I stay invisible or safe? Wound number 2, abandonment. Do I tolerate poor treatment just to keep someone from leaving? How often do I check my phone or seek reassurance because I'm afraid of being forgotten? Wound number 3, humiliation. In what ways am I shaming myself today? Do I mock my own needs or mistakes before someone else can get the chance to do it to me? Wound number 4, betrayal. Do I feel the need to be the strong one who manages everyone else's business? What would happen if I sat back and trusted things to unfold without my control? Wound number 5, injustice. Where am I being perfect at the expense of being happy? Do I judge others and myself more for their mistakes than for their character? Wound number 6, shame. If everyone knew the real me, the parts I hide, what is the specific thing I'm afraid they would see? Is it actually something I've done wrong? Or was it just a child's survival strategy? Wound number 7, invisibility. When I have a success or a hard day, who is the first person I want to tell? And if I don't tell anyone, does the experience feel real to me, or does it feel like I don't exist unless I am witnessed? Wound number 8, safety. Where in my body do I carry tension right now? If that tension had a voice, what would it be trying to protect me from? And wound number 9, guilt and responsibility. Am I fixing other people's problems because I love them, or because their distress makes me feel unsafe or guilty? Who taught me that my value is tied to my usefulness? And I've added 2 bonus introspective questions, which is thinking about our inner child as though we were their parents, so as if we are parenting ourselves. Okay, the first one. If I saw a 7-year-old, or you can insert any age depending on which age version of you you're connecting with. If I saw a 7-year-old child dealing with exactly what I am feeling right now, what would I say to them? Why is it so much harder to say those same words to myself? Okay, the last bonus question. What is a boundary I am afraid to set because of my childhood wounds? What is the cost I pay every day for not setting that boundary? And noticing within you which of these questions made you feel the most uncomfortable, because that can be a real signal towards what is ready for you to address and heal. You know, as I was talking through the 9 main wounds, there were 1 or 2 that I really didn't feel in alignment with, and that's great, but it's likely, you know, we've probably got at least 4 or 5 individually that are affecting us now in our adult lives, our behaviour, our relationships and perception, remember? So thank you so much for joining me in this mini masterclass today. Please do let me know what your thoughts, feelings, reflections were in the comments. I love reading your comments. And if you really did enjoy this mini masterclass, all donations for my channel are hugely appreciated. They help me to create more free content and also to upgrade my my technology and my tools that I use for my business. So yeah, gratefully received with a lot of love. Also, please do come and join the masterclass. There will be a link in the description that you can find on the 4th of May. May the 4th be with you. Or you can just get a copy of the whole masterclass bundle. And if you fancy really diving in deeper, it would be amazing to hold the space for a one-to-one Live Your Fantastical Life session for you. And look out soon, towards the end of this week, there's going to be a part 2 to this mini masterclass. And the part 2 is going to be actually bringing that inner child expression out. And this is where the fantastical comes in. I'm going to be talking a lot more about fantasy, sci-fi, myths, mythology, fairy tales, all of those things, talking about that and the importance of that, and also some of the key themes that we see in fantasy and sci-fi and what they are trying to tell us in our lives now, and how we can discover the myths and the fairy tales and the folklore and the fantasy and the sci-fi or whatever it may be that we loved as a child, what that's telling us and what about that wants to be expressed within us now in the present moment. So I'm super excited for that, and there's going to be more of that in the May the 4th masterclass as well. You can also find a link to that on my channel. I think that's all from me for today. Thank you so much, beautiful soul, if you've made it here till the end. Please do like, please do comment, share with anyone who you think would benefit from this conversation today. But just your presence alone is so much to me. It means so much to me. Thank you. You are amazing. I love you. Please keep up all of the incredible work that you're doing on yourself. You've got this.